This time, because I'm Smirt.
You are smart.
Hey, hey.
SMRT Smart.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to Zaya. Brian, do you want to take away the intro?
Absolutely. So welcome, everybody, to the continuing tales of the intrepid crew, the Berezaya Argia. We're down a couple of people today. Barca is dealing with some life stuff, and we'll be away for a short but slightly extended period. And unfortunately, Ember's not feeling well today. So, but the rest of us, believe it or not, are here right now. Narashti and Amaya are sharing a screen, as it were.
Which is why you see two of the same image on the screen. I have a whole new layout, guys. I'm really excited about this. That was what I was setting up beforehand. So,
and of course, we messed it up by.
That was 90% of my stress pre-stream when we were running late. Was trying to get this thing set up. So, now that we're live, I'm good.
All right. Well, we appreciate you all joining us. We're going to do a little recap. So, when we last sort of left off, you had. Prior to where we are kind of right now, you had returned to the tavern that you had sort of rented out under your disguise as the Sugar Fluffs after fighting and defeating the red, what do I call it, the red ringleader, the Harsk. And unfortunately, murder stabulating them quite a bit.
What's this unfortunate business? I don't feel bad at all about that.
They started it.
Well, yeah. Anyway, they started it. What, you know? Anyway, no, they did start it. Absolutely, 100%. But you did return back, and then Amaya got a telepathic message from Zaya saying that you guys needed to kind of return back, and in doing so, you met a Minotaur cavalry person a wyvern, and who is hissing quite extensively at Argenta, who is hissing quite extensively back at it, and then as well as a person that you had met briefly before on the seas north of Stormreach, a woman by the name of
Queen
Soya
Bitch of the
Superior.
Universe.
That too. And made the offer that you should come and speak to her mother, who is one of the who she introduces as one of the three sisters of Soyakel, one of the three hags, legendary hags that runs the country of Droam. You were all not really happy with that idea, but ultimately decided to agree to it to a certain extent, or at least to hear out what they had to say, especially since Soya Safiriel did mention that you would not, that you would be able to enter Droam without being accosted by anything, like you're vouched sort of safe. That being the case, though, you guys sort of, when she was preparing to board Zaya, you politely told her to fuck off, and so she took the captain, the Minotaur military man, the Captain Colvan, took his wyvern mount and flew off, and he joined came on board your ship. Very kind of no nonsense military, kind of a military born and bred personality, which Ember then hit on, and found out there was some mutual attraction there as far as that goes, and proceeded to head out to Droam. In the middle of the night, as you were for the most part getting settled in to go to bed, a large, spiny, serpentine-like creature that seems to swim through the air started attacking, and had a little bit of a nerve-wracking combat as far as that goes, especially when Rhiannon and later Nikali both got swallowed by said creature. But in the end, you all managed to pull through and continue your travels. So you are able to get a long rest if you have not already.
I believe I have done so, but let me double check.
Yeah, go ahead and double check. And so that's where we kind of leave off. So the rest of that evening does go uneventfully. Those that sleep. Those that only need a small amount of sleep are probably on deck then. Ember and the thrill and adrenaline rush of combat kind of threw the captain in the throes, and so in the hastily tented off section of the top deck, you can pretty much hear Ember and Captain Colvin going at it.
I feel like Ember would be loud, and I know that she's not here to say that, but I envision that.
She's a screamer.
She is probably very loud. And probably what's as impressive is the fact that they seem to be going for a fairly long time.
I remember.
Because apparently Minotaurs have stamina. So yeah, admittedly, if anyone was sleeping on the deck, you're probably being disrupted fairly much by their lovemaking session. But hey, the rest of the evening does go uneventfully.
I mean, for everybody but Ember.
Yeah. Ember will, not that it'll really matter for right now, but Ember will probably get a level of exhaustion.
I think that's fair.
And sorry, I just heard Jesse scream from up above. Bullshit.
Is she watching?
Yeah, I think she's watching us.
Hi, Jesse. Feel better.
Hi, Jesse. All right. So, with that being said, though, the next day of travel basically also goes uneventfully, and by that evening, you are. So sorry. So this would be the by the evening of the 9th of Olarun, for those that are keeping track on a calendar. You arrive above the titled city, the capital of Droiam, which is referred to as the Great Crag, and funny enough, it is from the surface. It actually doesn't look like all that much. You do see sort of a rift, like maybe about 50 feet across at its widest, and maybe about 100 feet long. And you do see there are some different buildings, mostly wood structures, that are kind of built almost kind of on the edge of it, and some that are even hanging over a little bit. Sure enough, at the and you do see like one of the larger buildings looks to have like a some sort of maybe elevator mechanism. Just guessing, as you guys approach, you do see like a platform with some different humanoid folks kind of descending down into the chasm as Zaya approaches. And so you definitely see Captain Colvan, being the next day, gets his equipment and stuff on and gets armored up and is kind of back to being all business, so to speak. But looks over at the group of you and says, I believe you're all requested, or at least those that are referred to as the captains of this crew.
Yeah, we got you.
And you see he's still kind of like, as he says that, he's still saying that with a little bit of confusion, because that is not how military things are done, or naval, or any sort of military thing. You don't have that. No. But
I mean, his first mistake was assuming military at all. That requires a measure of discipline.
Well, but even modern day like commercial vessels still go harken back to the days like there's still a captain of a ship, and there are like officers of a ship. Like,
yeah, I get that, and we have a captain, and a captain, and a captain, and a commodore, and a captain,
and a chief of security,
and a chieftain of security.
Chieftain of security. That's right. So I guess the bigger question is, who would you all like to necessarily have join you? I'm assuming the big six, but is there anyone else you guys want to have accompany you?
I think the big six, and we make sure to leave as many people behind as to guard the ship.
Mm-hmm.
That is fair.
Unless anybody vastly disagrees with me.
Oh.
Okay.
So you take one of the longboats then down to kind of float down, I guess, and you do see that there are a couple of the larger wooden areas, like actually almost like a barn, if you would, or a stables, in point of fact. And you do hear the sound of it. It sounds like several sort of screeching or hissing draconic forms that definitely, from your brief exposure to Colvin's desired mount, is you're guessing most likely more wyverns. And so Colvin sort of escorts you to the elevator area, and sure enough, sitting or standing there again with that sort of creepy, gleeful sort of smile that she has, you see Soya Saphiriel is waiting for you. And let's see here. And then I will, as a quick reminder, she looks something like that.
Okay, that looks really messed up on the new layout. That's great. Hang on. I got this.
And so you proceed. She's like, "Please, right this way," and escorts you to the platform that you see is connected by several kind of like ropes and chains and things of that nature. This sort of wooden platform. You all kind of enter it. You do feel it kind of, sort of shake or shudder slightly as you guys enter on, and then Colvin also enters on, since he's a big boy. But you do see that the platform does hold apparently a tremendous amount of weight, and apparently they're used to having larger creatures use this thing. And the elevator slowly starts to descend with sort of the cranking of gears and whatnot. And you see, as the platform descends, you're sort of enveloped in this brief sort of miasma of kind of sort of smoke and smell of contained humanity of different sorts, a little bit of sweat and sweat, pee, and poop, what have you. But the mass of humanity. But you see, as you kind of get past you don't fully 100% get past that, but you do kind of drop down past the ceiling, and you notice now why they call it the Great Crag, as it's almost as if, like, if you took the Grand Canyon and then took the top and went brrr, like you see, like the TARDIS, it's much bigger on the inside, and you see this huge, vast cavern-like complex that easily is a mile, could be a mile or two wide, you're guessing, in what appears to be sort of the depths of Kyber. But even more important than that is you see it is just covered in what looks like just a set of, I wouldn't say ruins, but just covered in what looks like a city, which appears to be this sort of mishmash of what you've seen, because you've seen it in Sharn and other places by now. Some which look like ancient Takani Empire era ruins that have been kind of rebuilt and redone. You do see some buildings that look more kind of almost like an adobe kind of structure to them, and admittedly very much like the kind of like that sort of the Pueblo sort of build up. You do see that the buildings not only cover the ground of the of this great cavern, this great crag, but also kind of go up into the walls. And you see in some areas where there are actually stalactites or stalactites hanging down, There are even some bridges and build-ons into that you see either like signs of torchlight or whatnot. And it is bustling with movement. You hear the sounds of, it's like you hear the sounds of civilization. There are, markets. There are kind of foundries and sort of their own factories. You do see there is a location where it looks like that kind of metallic, that ironclad airship that you guys came across, where it looks like they have effectively like a dry dock where they are making several more of them that are in various states of production. And feel free to actually make a perception roll if you'd like.
Natural 20 for a total of 22.
First roll of the game is also a natural 20, but my bonus is less. So I rolled a natural 20 for a 20.
I rolled 9, but I got a 16, so.
Okay.
Great. What? Not bad. It's for
And
rolling.
Amaya?
Amaya got an 18.
Okay. So all of you notice that one of the airships that's in the dry dock, it appears to be fairly, there's signs of a lot of burning char marks where some of the hatches and stuff are.
Does it look like...
And you definitely hear the signs of, like in some points there, you see they are either hauling fresh lumber into it, or taking charred bits out of it.
As a role-playing note, I will kind of sidle up to Ember as we're walking, kind of nudge her with my elbow and point at the ship and kind of giggle.
And you see she can't help but giggle a little bit. In maybe even sort of a kind of a slightly creepy, maniacal way.
Who's to say that mine wasn't that either?
That's fair. And you see all, like, so there are all sorts of races here. Like, truthfully, it almost kind of reminds you of Stormreach in that there's just a menagerie of people that you would not normally see, even on the metropolitan streets or cosmopolitan streets, I should say, of Sharn. But much like Stormreach, you see all sorts of various, like, you see gnolls and ogres and trolls, and you see some of the people that do look a little bit more humanoid that are sitting there. Like, as you're walking by, you see these two guys that look sort of humanoid start to have a fight, and they over something like a game or something that they are playing, and then start to shift and grow into a couple of werewolves that start tearing at each other.
Like actual honest-to-God werewolves?
As far as you know.
Jesus.
I didn't know that.
So, like, even those that look normal, not so much. You see a couple of humanoids that have it almost looks like chitinous growths, almost on their, as like a bracers or whatever. Or at one point you see like what looks like to be like this really giant sort of scarab-like bracer actually stands up and kind of crawls up to the guy's shoulder and then sort of settles down again, like it.
That's creepy.
There's a lot of you see some undead, just like traveling about almost having like a discussion. Like you see actually a couple of you're guessing maybe more ghoulish types or whatnot, because they're like very gaunt and have like kind of filthy looking claws. Are sitting there haggling with a knoll about a couple of slaves, or as they like to call them, the dinner menu. Um,
Gross.
you see, it's just kind of a chaotic mess. But a couple of things you do notice is that there are, as chaotic as it seems, um, it's not quite like, and it does seem dangerous, much like Stormreach, where danger is kind of around every corner. Like you get that feel at first, but you notice that there is actually a police force of sorts. Some of them looking very similar to how Captain Colvin is set up. You see some of the larger races like the ogres and some orcs and gnolls and other folk, but some like minotaurs and ogres wearing similar armor to like what Colvin is, where as far as like wearing like full plate and looking very official. And all of them have tabards that show the crest of ultimately of Droham, that are kind of the that identifies them as being of the, well, whether they're like the Watch or the actual army, you're not 100% certain, but they're definitely keeping the peace and policing the place.
Cool.
And they do so fairly brutally too.
Violently.
Yeah, like you see the two werewolves that were going at it. You see like one of these patrols runs over there, and immediately like two or three ogres tackle the werewolf to the ground, while it like pins it to the ground. Two of them pin it to the ground, while a third keeps kind of like smashing its boot into their face until the werewolf stops moving or stops fighting. And you see the second werewolf, like as the ogre is about to ready to wield the great club that's the size of a small tree. The other werewolf immediately just kind of drops down to their knees and puts their hands up like they don't want to get the shit kicked out of them.
Amazing how that works.
Right. So you do get a sense that, and for most people, when they see that, then they kind of just go about their work and whatnot. And so you definitely notice that there, maybe unlike Stormreach, there is at least a little bit more policing going on, but it is definitely a brutal form of law enforcement as far as that goes.
Note to self, don't get in trouble with the law here.
Any more than we already technically are.
Yes.
And with that, you are brought to you're brought basically through town, and you kind of you get a sense, she's not really being very subtle about it, that this Soya Superior is definitely trying to impress or intimidate by showing you what exactly it is they have here. Because back in the original Eberron setting, it was only set like 4 years after the Day of Mourning and 2 years after the Treaty of Thronehold, or 2 years after the cessation of the war. But in this version of our game, where we're another 20 years past that, well, that's 20 more years for their civilization to grow and develop.
Right.
Yeah.
So while they're still very monstrous and horrible in a lot of ways, there's surprisingly some law and order to it as well, because
when you have a city full of monsters, you got to keep control somehow.
Yep.
Right. And so you are taken then to what looks like a sort of a massive Dakani fortress that, interestingly enough, it actually looks like half of a Takani Fortress, and then merged with it is half of what would be considered more modern construction, which definitely does not have like an architecture aesthetic that you have seen before at all. And you get kind of the sense that, judging by how it's sort of set up, the original ruins may have actually been what survived from up above and was sort of rebuilt, perhaps. Like maybe this area sort of collapsed in. Maybe that's what might have caused the rift up above. You're not 100% certain, but it does have a certain sort of regalness to it, if a bit kind of, especially the newer section, maybe a bit more brutality. Like lean a little bit more towards like Horde architecture from WoW, maybe a little bit.
Fair.
We'll call it that. Except with more stone and less rib cages.
Stone in the shape of rib cages.
Yeah, there's that too. And you are brought in, and you do see it's just full of different guards, and again, they're all kind of clad in the same sort of similar armor and tabards and whatnot. And you are escorted into what looks like a grand hall, dimly lit. There's a couple of braziers that have like a kind of a fire roaring in them that give you like dim lighting in the whole room, but it's not, and you even find too in the city itself, it's not, again, most of it's kind of dim lighting, like you can see enough, but other than the few fires that are going, you're guessing many of the monsters down here, or many of the citizens of this nation can see in the dark, so light's not as big of a deal. In that regards. And I apologize. I'm going to take a quick 2 minutes. River is giving me I need to go OUT wine. I'll be right back.
Alrighty. The river puppy has to go to the potty.
River Pupper has to do the thing.
She has to do the things. She has to pee. That's okay. Catch up on notes.
I am caught up.
You're caught up?
Alrighty then. So, to continue. Now, when you were brought in, so you're brought into the very beginning of this hall, and you see that there is looks like another Minotaur officer who somehow looks even a little bit bigger and beefier than Colvin does. And just kind of holds his hand out and says, "You will leave your armaments here. They will be given back to you when you leave the hall." And you see there's actually like, and kind of does sort of snaps his fingers, and you see there are several kind of slaves that come up and sort of offer their hands to.
Gavin just kind of reaches to his belt, pulls off the empty scabbard, hands it over, smiles.
Rhiannon fakes a limp and tries to keep her staff.
Go ahead and make a deception check. I'm going to say with disadvantage.
Yeah. She's not getting away with it, but...
Because you walked through the whole city just fine, but now you've got a limp.
I mean, 15.
May I ask, is your staff magical?
It is not. It is just a carved staff. It does have my Kalashtar crystal in the top.
Okay.
Full Gandalf.
So when you sort of do that, you see the one officer sort of looks at you, and then looks over at Colvin. You see Colvin just kind of shrugs. And you see the the Royal Guard, for lack of better, we'll call him Royal Guard for lack of a better term. Barrett just kind of nods and kind of motions for you to step off to the side.
I step off to the side.
You see Barca sort of reluctantly hands over his weapons, but just kind of looks the guy in the eye and is like, looks the guy in the eye and then looks at the slave and is like, "It's okay," and then just gives it to the slave, but like gives the Royal Guardsman the stink eye, the big stink eye. Sorry, I keep looking down because my monitor is like about below my camera, so I apologize. If I'm looking down, I really mean to be looking at all of you.
That's fair.
But
Amaya will hand over the non-magical short sword that she's got and the handful of darts that apparently I have on her sheet. But she's going to pull out just the hilt of the Sunblade, not activated, and tell them that it's just decorative. Like, see? No actual weapon, it's just a hilt.
yeah, you can go ahead and roll deception with disadvantage as well.
For the shot. 18.
Nice.
Well then, and you see the Royal Guard is like, "If you wish to keep your hilt, then perhaps I'll just take your hands. Then there will be no worries that you might do something horrible with it. Shall we?" And you see he reaches for his sword, puts his hand on the hilt of his great sword that's kind of slung across his back, but doesn't make any further move to draw it.
Well, if a decorative hilt is that threatening to you, I suppose you can hold on to it. Though, for the record, it's not my hands that would be lost in the scuffle. I shall hand it over.
Okay.
Narash doesn't have anything that she could even pretend to conceal, so watching all of this, just hands it over without saying anything.
Okay. And Ember will kind of follow suit. And you see the Royal Guard then proceeds to kind of give an order to the slaves, and they kind of go and step off. They kind of line up near actually the entrance to this kind of longer entry hall or greeting hall, and you see they're just kind of lined up against the wall holding onto your guys' gear. Like they're not really going, like you can see the gear. It's not like they're going out of visual range of it.
Okay.
And you see the officer or this Royal Guard member then's like, "Captain, take charge of the slaves. The rest of you, please follow me."
I will follow.
Okay.
I will follow, leaning heavily on my staff.
Okay. And so you head down the hall, this grand hall, and you see there are, along the sides of the hall, there are these massive sort of pillars that kind of go down in sets kind of on either side, and you see there are groups that kind of are meeting and gathering for various different things. You see that much like this Royal Guard Minotaur that you see in front of you that's kind of leading you on, there are also other, again, for lack of a better term, Royal Guard members kind of attending to each of these groups. And it's kind of easy to figure out that you're guessing they are all here to have to seek a visit or brain farting on
Audience.
what terminology. Thank you. To seek an audience with the sisters, you're guessing. And so he brings you over to an area and then kind of is like, "Please wait here." However, the Royal Guard doesn't necessarily, that steps a few feet away to give you your sort of your privacy, but doesn't necessarily go too far away. You get a sense that the Guards members are there to sort of keep an eye on the people that are in this area. And I'm gonna let the dog back in. Go ahead and if you would like, feel free to take a look, or you can go ahead and make perception rolls as you look at the other people.
Oh, not good.
Jeez, I'm rolling terribly. I'm distracted.
Apparently Amaya is too. 11.
Apparently Rhiannon is too. 11.
17!
At least
sucks.
Gavin sees something.
Which sucks for me, or for you guys, because I probably have the lowest bonus here.
Okay, so Gavin got a 17. Did anyone get higher than Gavin?
No.
Okay.
Except the three of us all got 11s.
My passive perception is higher.
Yeah, me
Yeah, my
too.
passive perception is a 17.
So,
That's
for the
hilarious.
majority of you, you are just kind of taking in the so this hall is actually surprisingly quiet for just the large, open space that it is, because the ceiling in this, so like the hall itself is easily like 60 feet wide, and it probably runs down at least like 100 to even like 150 feet. Like it could have been a cathedral at a different time or what have you. Like it's just massive. The ceilings are like easily 50 to 60 feet high, and from what you can see, there are definitely different carvings and depictions carved into the stone, showing the different heroes of Droam, the different monsters that have helped to create and cultivate it, so to speak. And so, like, Rhiannon, with your role, you notice that there is, in one spot, looks like a beholder sitting there having some discussions with a couple of super pale, almost whitish skinned humanoids, with definitely almost looks like sort of white, milky eyes. And as far as one group, you in fact see Narasti and Amaya. You actually see there is a probably a trio of mind flayers, as an example, kind of standing off again, that aren't expressing a single word, but you know they're telepathic, so that's not really that big of a surprise.
Yeah.
Wide fucking berth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and each group has probably like 2 or 3 pillars. If the pillars are spaced like every like 10, 15 feet apart, or probably like 15 or 20 feet apart, like each group is kind of separated by at least one set of pillars. So I mean, you definitely have a space. Like no one necessarily, you get a sense that this area, this space is meant to be sort of like all right, we're going to give you time to gather yourselves before you go forth, like, to kind of do your last minute preparations, as far as that goes. So no group necessarily wants anyone else hearing what they're planning. So everyone's definitely keeping to themselves, and that's why, as far as big as the hall is, you don't hear much other than the kind of the little bit of a susurrus of like a whisper every now and then, or a little snarl or yip or something for those races that speak more in barks and growls and yips and yada yada. But Gavin, you notice that one of the groups, you see, it looks like several either like half dragons or dragonborn, very dressed very similar in the style of the some of those warriors that have ambushed you in the past, along with a relatively large green dragon, much bigger than your the kind of the younger adolescent ones that were still the size of a horse, that you had that had fought you guys a few days ago, relatively speaking, in the woods southwest of Sharn. And the big thing is you notice that they, as they're all sitting there, they are like the Dragonborn or half dragons, depending on. Admittedly, you to know the difference between the two is pretty hard to distinguish, unless you're able to get to look at them really closely. But you notice that they are kind of like whispering amongst themselves, but you see the dragon is just looking at you and your group and is not taking their eyes off of you.
Okay, yeah. Gavin is going to kind of elbow Rhiannon. And just kind of then maintain intense eye contact with that dragon. We're talking like full-on soul gaze here.
Okay.
Rhiannon follows Gavin's gaze.
And you see these, again, Dragonborn or half-dragons, again, mostly in their wearing the plate mail and arm, much like the warriors that you have tried to ambush you guys in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You do see they actually do have an emblem. And if I can find it...
Is it what I think it is?
So they do have a sort of an emblem on their armor and shields and whatnot. And you see even on the dragon has a... almost looks like maybe it's sort of like painted on its scales on the side of its neck in sort of a red, brownish red color, almost kind of like a woad-esque sort of thing, but you effectively see that as sort of a symbol.
It is not what I thought it was.
Ugh.
Huh.
You do also see there are some. You see it, and you see they all kind of are chittering with each other, and when they kind of whispering to each other as they are more or less eyeballing you guys, but the dragon is just not paying the rest of their minions any heed and is just staring kind of. Dragon dagger at you?
Dragon daggers! So right as we're walking, like I'm maintaining that like intense eye contact with that dragon, right as we start to move past and get out of view, he's going to break into a giant smile and do like the finger wave. All until we are out of view.
Okay. Well, and you're all like you go to your assigned little section that this Royal Guard has kind of set you up at. But the hall itself is this wide open space, so you're not necessarily out of view of the...
Well, then I'll do that until we get to our designated area.
All right. And I will say, and I apologize if I made this different earlier, but you guys actually do recognize that symbol, as you've seen it several times now, as you've been ambushed by... when you have been ambushed by either kobolds, or kobolds and dragonborn, or kobolds, dragonborn, and half dragons.
All of the things.
All the draconic shit that seems to try and want to kill you right now has so far seemed to have that symbol in some way, shape, or form.
Can I approach our Minotaur guard?
You sure can.
Still limping. Just want to make that clear.
You were going to limp until you specifically say otherwise?
Yes, I am limping until I say otherwise. Pardon me. And I sort of nod toward the group of, like, dragons and stuff.
Yes.
The emblem they bear. Can you tell me what it means?
It's their symbol. Looks like fangs.
There's no, like, name or patron attached to it.
I don't know who they are as of yet.
Gotcha.
They were not assigned to me. You were.
Understood. Thank you. And she'll hobble back toward Gavin. Well, that was useless.
And Gavin, you notice as she hobbles back, you see the royal guard kind of looks at her, just shakes his head, and then just kind of like sort of scans the rest of you, but is still kind of keeping an eye on all of you, but at a discreet enough distance you can kind of like if you whisper to each other, he's not going to necessarily overhear.
Sure.
Or anything. And you see, and as you get to your spot, I should have said, so slight retcon, you see Soya Safirio, who has been with you, coming with you to this point, kind of nods to all of you and goes, I will see if they are ready for you. And she proceeds to go alone to basically the other end of the chamber from where you guys entered, where there is a massive set of double doors, also flanked by several of these royal guard. And then you see they kind of open up the door a crack and let her through. And then shut the door. And what seems like probably hours, but is realistically probably only maybe like 10, 15 minutes. You see she comes back out. And heads over to you and is like, it appears my mother would like to speak with you immediately. Please follow me. And she turns and starts heading in, and you notice the hall goes silent as all these other groups that have been waiting for an audience notice that, like, you effectively cut the line.
We're jumping the line.
Yeah, so to speak. And
See, now would be the moment for your smile and wave.
And that was I was thinking that too. So yeah, as we're leaving, I'll make eye contact with that dragon again, and then I'll repeat as we go.
And the last thing you hear as you kind of go through the doors is you hear the very loud growl of the dragon echo throughout the chamber.
I wait till the door closes and then I shudder.
And you enter into a room that, for as interesting it is, in that the previous room that you were in was very crafted and constructed. You see this room is very different. It's a lot more organic. It looks like an actual sort of cavern or cave. Almost. You do look behind you and you see the doors, and there is a set built wall, but it almost looks as they built up to where the door was, and the rest is sort of this natural cavern to an extent. And you see there's sort of this winding, slightly winding path that maybe goes about 30 or 40 feet. That kind of opens up into a large, flat, sort of stony platform or outcropping, and on either side of it, you just see this reddish glow come from below. And sure enough, as you can kind of look over the edge, you see there are lava, active lava pits, for lack of a better term, on either side. After maybe about a fall of again, about 30 to 40 feet, should one decide to fall in. Is that a thing? Anyway. And across from you, as you get to that kind of open platform, you see there are these 3 stone thrones. Um, Definitely all made and sized for a larger sized creature, much like the ogres or the minotaur or what have you. Um, and you see each throne seems to almost be adorned in a while they're made out of stone, they're each kind of adorned in sort of a different style. The one on the left has all sorts of uh, blades and like pole arms or axes or other weaponry. Very kind of like the Throne of Swords, but like maybe not as melded together, but like actually more like just individually sort of sticking out as sort of like trophies. Um, and you see sits on the left, and you see it is just adorned and with all these sort of different mounted weapons. You see several of the weapons are glowing, obviously magical in some way, shape, or form. And then sitting, and the last part is the 2 sort of armrests. You see where the armrest kind of comes to the end, where you'd like, if you were to set your hands, you see there are 2 massive skulls, uh, one of which looks to be that of, you're guessing, a giant of some kind, and the other that, well, you've seen enough of them now, definitely looks very draconic in uh, in appearance. And and the throne itself is empty. No one is currently sitting on that throne. Uh, but you're from what little you know of Droam, you know there are 3 sisters that ultimately run, quote unquote, run Droam, and one of them is very much known to be the sort of the leader of the, you could say, of the military, for lack of a better term, leader of the war forces, as it were. And you're guessing maybe that is, for lack of a better term, her chair. The other chair sitting on the opposite side, on the right, is decked out in a much kind of creepier motif, as it were, as you see several hanging off of several, like, maybe large ribs or tusks that seem to kind of fan out from them. You see these sort of hanging, uh, almost like shrunken heads. And they are of varying sizes, so some of them are still probably the size of a beach ball, but many are more uh, medium-sized creature, skull-sized heads. But all are kind of done in that sort of shrunken head style, so to speak, with the you see like the sewn lips. But and they just kind of seem to be slowly kind of twisting back and forth a little bit. But every once in a while, you see the eyes look up, these like dead eyes look up at you, and you see the mouth kind of as as you kind of sit there. However, it is the center throne that is, as disturbing as those may be to an extent. The third throne is where you see a an older woman, it looks like, is sitting, who, well, I'm going to share this because it's, I think, even better than just trying to necessarily describe her.
Ooh.
You see she has, as you can see, very wrinkled skin, although it looks like some of the wrinkles are as much these like almost tattoo-like patterns as you can kind of see on her hands. It's kind of a mesh between the two. You do see she has the one eye, and that it is seems to be sort of weeping a bit, as it were. She is also very much a large sized creature, much like the ogres and whatnot. And you see even though you've never necessarily heard a description of her, you can't help but think that there's no doubt to it. This is indeed the sort of the head sister of the Sisters of Sorakel, the one that is considered the leader, the Soyakatra. And you see she just sits there and has an apple in her hand and a knife in the other, and is actually carving up a little slice of apple, and then she just eats it.
Gavin is going to kind of glance at the rest of the group and then step forward. And actually, he'll step forward, but kind of keep a respectful distance.
Sure.
And he will actually get down, not so much in a bow, but just kind of get down on his knees.
Okay.
And he will look at her, but not necessarily directly in the eyes.
Okay.
Like kind of focusing on that middle point in the forehead. One, because it's disrespectful, and two, because that weeping eye is kind of freaking him out a little bit. And he'll probably say this a lot more eloquently than I'm going to, but he will... what is her name?
Whose name?
Which one?
This sister.
Soyakatra.
Soyakatra.
The one on the throne, or the one that brought you in here?
The one that is on the throne.
Soyakatra.
He will actually, so he'll move forward, he'll get down on his knees, and he will kind of look over at Soyakatra's daughter. Soyakel? Saphiriel.
Her daughter was named Soya Saphiriel.
Soya Saphiriel. So he'll look over at her and kind of, I guess, wait for a prompt.
Okay. And you see the Katra, the crone, for lack of a better term, because that's what she is, literally. But it kind of sets the apple aside and the knife aside and goes, "So, you are the ones my daughter seems so interested in. What are your names?"
My name is Gavin Pendergast. These are my companions. And he'll go through, he'll mostly just do first names, though.
Okay.
I mean, some of us just have first names, so it's not... but he won't, throw on Dividalis, Dimidani, anything like that.
Gotcha. Please, come forward. And she kind of gestures more towards you, Gavin, since you're kind of taking the lead here. It's like, this old eye doesn't see quite like it used to.
Beep, beep.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin will get up and move forward. He'll stop probably about 10 feet away.
You see she kind of leans forward. And that's when you realize that, for as much as she looks like an older, crone-like woman, like you see in the picture, that she is still a large creature, and very much as she leans forward and her, beach ball sized head sort of leans down to you a little bit. You kind of get a sense of that sort of size. And goes, how interesting. I see now why she has taken such an interest in you. And Gamma, go ahead and make an insight check.
17.
Okay. When she says she, you get the sense that that Katra is not talking about her daughter.
I beg your pardon, but whom do you speak of?
Well, it is interesting that you should ask. And as she's about to say something, you hear a loud sort of a crash as you see the stone door, or the doors to this cavern are kind of knocked open, and you see several of those half-dragon warriors are sort of like, they're not drawing weapons necessarily, but they're definitely.
I mean, theoretically, they were disarmed when they came in too.
Right. But they're definitely kind of wrestling with these sort of royal guardsmen. But you see, kind of just pushing past all of them, kind of knocking several down. You see that green dragon come forth and start hissing, roaring something loudly in Draconic. For those of you who can speak Draconic,
I do.
I don't.
I think Amaya does too.
Does what?
Do you speak Draconic?
I don't think so, actually.
okay.
I think you might be the only one.
I do. Look at that.
You do?
I do.
Wonderful.
So the two of you hear it say, "I demand an audience. This transgression will go no further."
Maintaining eye contact with the dragon, I will kind of turn my head a little bit towards the woman, or towards the crone.
And you definitely see she appears unhappy.
Do you want us to dispose of the pest for you?
And you see the dragon is like, "I demand you hand them over to us immediately." And you see she just kind of flicks her finger like that. And you see the dragon. Well, actually, I suppose I should roll. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, that. Oh, yeah, no, that's on that one. And you see the dragon and just kind of sit there frozen for a moment. It's like, "You need to know your place, beast. This is my realm, not your mistress's. Now, there have been agreements that have been made to your mistress as far as aiding these individuals. We will not do so. However, since you've transgressed yourselves in my hall, and since these children of calamity seem to be your mistress's focus, I feel they need to know what they are getting themselves into. Now, if you do not wish to degrade this ceremony anymore, you shall now leave. However, if you take a step forward, I will have you slaughtered." You see with that, she kind of does another flick, and you see the dragon then kind of almost get released and kind of growls for a moment, but then like looks down at the group of you and looks at her and slowly kind of bows its head and steps back and leaves the chamber. And you see the dragon's guards quickly follow suit. And you see the doors are closed and like everything sort of kind of comes back. It's like, agreements have been made when it comes to you children. Agreements that prohibit us from interfering too much, but since this transgression has been made, I will offer what limited assistance I can. You see, I am burdened with the curse of prophecy.
Uh-oh.
So, I will offer you each a gift of sorts. I will ask each one of you individually 3 questions. And if you answer honestly, then I will answer one of your questions as honestly as I can, as honestly as prophecy allows. Your foe, the leader of that rabble, thinks of themselves as a mistress of prophecy, however, she makes herself a pawn in the game as much as anyone else. And do take care, you are also pawns in this game, if one can call it as such. Admittedly, for me, it's been so many years, I don't see it as much else. You are it appears, daughter, that their title as the Children of Calamity, as spoken of in the prophecies, seems very aptly named. So, I will allow you a moment to gather yourselves. And then, when you're ready, whichever one of you would like to start first. Now I warn you, while I will speak the truth as much as I can, prophecy has a way of sometimes obscuring the truth. Unfortunately, it is quite annoying.
Well, at least she admits it.
That being said, I will offer up as direct a truth as I can. Although my answer is as much a gift as it is a curse. Such is the way of prophecy. And then you see she kind of reaches over and picks up her knife and apple and then proceeds to kind of eat a few pieces and kind of waits for you to...
Gavin is going to head back to the group.
Okay.
There's a lot here, and we have a lot of questions, but we did come here for a specific purpose.
Yes.
you do notice that, like, while Soyakatra's kind of gone back to doing her thing and kind of not paying really any attention to any of you, and seems to actually be humming a tune that you do not recognize. But you see Soya Superior is just kind of sitting with like the excitement of like a child who is waiting for their favorite television show to come on, is just sitting there like is very is trying to keep her excitement down to minimum and is failing to keep it together, as she's like very much interested in.
Gavin will follow that up with, I have no doubt in my mind anything we say now is going to be perceived.
Oh,
So
yes.
take care with your language. We came here for a specific purpose, and as much as I would love to know all of the things, maybe we should ask questions about Rhiannon's mother.
That is certainly my intent. But
Well, Rhiannon, what if you go first and see what information we get? Because I also wonder, since her answers are based in prophecy, if she'd be even able to.
to give multiple answers on the same line of questioning.
Right. She might be limited to giving answers to individuals about the individual.
Potentially.
But if we start and see what information you can get.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of questions at this point.
If we get the information we need, where she's at, how to release her, that sort of thing, perhaps then we can start asking questions about this whole prophecy and Children of Calamity. And I gotta say, while it is definitely an apt name for us, I feel a little called out.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And Gavin, well, and actually, really, for any of you, feel free to make an insight check. Well, or no, never mind. As you recall, you do recall when you first met Soya Superior, she referred to you as children as well.
Yes, just not Children of Calamity, just children.
Which annoys Rhiannon to no end.
Yeah, well.
But at least now you know that there may be something a little bit more to it. I mean, it's still condescending as hell. I mean, I'm not going to argue that.
Right, but if it's like a title and a prophecy, as opposed to just being a condescending bitch.
I mean,
Little from column A, little from column B. I know, I get it.
Both, It's like,
why not both?
So, Rhiannon, do you want to be the first to approach?
Yep.
Okay.
Still leaning on her staff, although not like overselling it. Right.
Gavin definitely pats your butt as you walk past.
And you see Soyakatra actually gestures for you to take a seat kind of on the steps, sort of
At
beside
feet.
her, below her, yeah.
I will sit.
So, Truth Seeker. What is your path?
I don't know. I thought I knew. But things have changed. And I am honestly not sure anymore.
Then your title is apt named, as you are still seeking for it. Understandable. What is it you fear?
Failure. Failing my friends, failing family.
A heavy burden. I admit I feel that burden from time to time as well.
It is not a pleasant one.
Those that have been chosen by fate rarely have a pleasant one. Exciting, perhaps. Dangerous, most definitely.
May you live in interesting times.
Indeed. And my final question, what is your truth?
Success. Sorry.
I still seek my truth. I think truth is, in a way, always shifting depending on circumstances and knowledge, and is something to always be sought. Once we stop seeking it, it shifts out from underneath us.
And you see she smiles. Please, ask your question.
Thank you. Rhiannon takes a deep breath, because she is extremely nervous right now. My mother was brought here 5 years ago after having been captured in Sharn. I would like to know how to get her back.
Your mother's... sorry, something in my eye.
Okay.
Is it watering? Are you just super channeling this creature right now?
Yes.
No, but all of a sudden it's like weirdly like some dust or something, so it's like, even though it's not dust, but all of a sudden my eyes were like, hey, you should react to this. I was like, why?
Why
Right.
no?
Okay to get emotional, Brian.
It's such a beautiful moment. Okay. Your mother has lived through some, is living through some tumultuous times. She did indeed grace us with her presence those years ago, as you mentioned. And had been our guest for several years. Most recently, though, and you see she looks over at Soya Safirio. It's like, recently, though, she was bartered off in a negotiation with the being who holds the reins of those that tried to enter here earlier. In a negotiation of non-aggression between Droam and their mistress's fledgling nation, as it were. Although I do fear that your coming here will precipitate more aggression with them, to some extent. Yours, not ours. Our negotiations, our treaty will still hold, as Durham will not be involved in this past what we do here today. But this mistress of theirs, she is in possession of your mother, no doubt as some sort of leverage on you and yours. In fact, it was the dragon's attention to you and yours that piqued the interest of my daughter, for good or ill of this nation.
Thank you. And Rhiannon will somewhat clumsily back down the steps with her staff.
Next.
Did we all hear that exchange?
No. No.
Oh,
Only
okay.
the individual necessarily hears it.
I will.
I mean, for purposes of y'all being up here, you all heard it obviously on the video, but no, only the individual.
I will very quickly and concisely tell the group that Lyria was bartered to the mistress of the dragon folk. And we need more info on that leader and where she is.
I would like to go last, if possible, and the reason being, if we can get as much I know we all have questions that we want to ask, but I really want to know where all of my power is coming from. So if we get the information we need prior to that, I would like to ask that question. If we don't, I will gladly ask a question in regard to figuring out how to get at Rhiannon's mom. But if he would allow me to go last to at least have the opportunity to even get to that point, I would appreciate it.
Narashti, Amaya. If you all are talking, we can't hear you.
No, we're both thinking.
Okay.
Tell you what, while you're thinking, Barca will approach and has a conversation with her.
Okay.
And we're not going to go through that because he's not here. So he talks, blah, 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 blah. There's some growling. They both nod. And he heads back. And you see as he comes back and he's kind of contemplative, all of a sudden he's like, Riri, sorry. I meant to ask the question about your mom, but then I forgot.
It's
Sorry.
okay, buddy. It's okay, buddy.
Sorry.
She gives it
He
a
kind of
hug.
goes off.
What question do you want asked?
I would say, I mean, and Rhiannon, you could weigh in on this, but who is our foe? Where are they?
Yeah. Who, where, why?
What the fuck their problem is?
Yeah.
So just who is our enemy?
Something along those lines. I mean, I think you can flavor it however you want to.
So which one of you would like to go next? Well, and if you guys are still thinking, Ember will go up and have a conversation, blah, 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 and we won't go over that right now because she's not here with us, but then she comes back. And she doesn't really say much to the rest of you because, quite frankly, I don't know what she was necessarily told or what she asked for. We'll deal with that later. But you see she's definitely kind of lost in thought and sort of Ember will say, not that I'm trying to put a pin on finding out more about Rhiannon's mother, because that is
Right.
obviously why we're here for a lot of this. But the question, she did mention that the question that is asked well, she asked me if it's truly what I desired to learn, and I admit it. As much as I want to help out, I had some other questions potentially. I didn't. Much like you, Gavin, what you were saying with your powers. I'm sorry, I didn't ask. I wasn't focusing on it. She has a way about her. Which, admittedly, Rhiannon, you kind of noticed too a little bit that the conversation that you had is very I guess, for lack of a better term, truthful in that response. Like it's speaking to the truth as far as the conversation.
Well, then I suppose ask your questions and.
So who would like to go next?
Amaya still has a question that she wants personally answered too.
Well, sounds like that might be just what's happened. Like,
kind of sounds like we don't have much of a choice but to ask something that has to do with our own truth.
Well, and let me rephrase, out of character, you can ask whatever you want. But you get the sense that this is leaning more towards the individual, I guess. We'll leave it at that.
What the hell? Maya will go next.
Okay.
See how this goes.
So Maya, you approach and again kind of sit on the steps like everybody else has. Ah, the champion of light. Tell me, what is your path?
My path is the one that I choose for myself, no more, no less.
Oh, come now. It's my job to be vague. And even I'm suppressing that as a gift to you. Truly, it is much more than just playing word games.
Well, it, I suppose, is somewhat of a word game, but I don't really have a set path. I tried to have one set for me. It was not mine. So I am looking and making the path that I feel is right for me, whatever that ends up being.
Are you not the protector of the child of light?
I am the protector of my child.
Yes, the Sky Child. Or the Child of the Winds, although I don't like that description nearly as well as the others.
Hmm. I suppose that is part of my path, or one of my paths. Her guardian, her guide, her protector.
But you feel there is something more.
Well, no person can be defined by any one thing. We all are many things, and we all walk many paths. Sometimes simultaneously, some sequentially.
Very true.
It is one of the things that defines me most, but it is not the only thing.
Then what do you think is your truth?
My truth is that light will overcome darkness. So, whatever path I take, it will be a path into the light.
Sorry, I'm also writing these down as I'm going, so I'm...
Sure.
Very well, I have asked my 3 questions. What do you ask of me?
Trying to think of the best way to phrase this. I feel like I'm probably not going to come up with the best way to phrase this, but
What was that?
That sounded like a Xander.
Yeah, that
You
is
know.
definitely a Xander.
Watching Ball Hunters.
Oh. God, there's like 3 variations of this question that I want to ask, and I don't know which is best.
Pick the middle one.
Be as open-ended as possible.
Pick the middle one. I love it.
We're muted. This is not improving my blood pressure.
In what way?
Their bullshit is not improving my blood pressure.
That's fair.
How can a quarry spirit be removed from a Kalashtar?
Interesting. I myself have only had peripheral dealings with the Clash Tar. More so with the Dreaming Dark. She says that with a bit of disdain.
Mhm.
While not a common procedure, it is unsurprising that those creatures born of nightmares can create one so foul that even those that do not dream fear of it. Losing that link to your bonded spirit, your quarry, I believe they are referred to. But leave it to nightmares to develop one. To develop one potentially so harmful to you and your kind. Unfortunately, such devices do exist. Although, luckily for your kind, they are few in number and more prevalent where your friend, the Shadow Slayer, hails from. As I'm sure her mentor will most likely be able to attest to.
I see. Thank you for your answer. I'm trying to group.
And which one of you would like to approach next?
I think that's me if Gavin's last.
Correct.
He just kind of
Yeah.
shakes his head and he goes, I don't care. It's up to you.
I'll go.
Okay. Ah, Shadow Slayer.
She'll nod or give some sort of nod. I don't know. Is there telepathic acknowledgement that's not really like words?
Just walk up and thumbs up, like.
Okay. Do you even wish to speak with her with your mind link? Or do you just...
Well, is that how she speaks to me? Because I guess you said none of us were hearing the,
None of you are hearing the conversation, but you definitely saw that she was speaking to the individual. She was not telepathically communicating with them.
I think it was just we were too far away from whoever was answering questions, right?
Yeah.
If she... I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll let you know as I talk.
Well, we'll assume for right now you're talking unless you say otherwise.
Yes, that sounds good.
So, what is your path?
My path is the one that leads me against the dreaming dark to bring more light to our world. Right now, it seems to be with this crew, and with the new quarry spirit, to ensure her safety in this world, and whatever, I suppose, whatever fallout comes from her arrival.
Yes, the Child of Light.
We call her Zaya. That will be telepathic.
And what is it you fear?
Not knowing what to do next, and losing my path.
If you are following your path, how can you lose it?
Paths aren't always as clear as a road through town. Sometimes it's not until you've started down one way then you really can look back to see that's really the path that you meant to follow along. I know that. I just hope that whatever way I go, that I continue on the path that I wish to be on.
Sorry, I'm making some quick notes here.
You're good. One of the things I have to do in my job is to do like over the phone interviews just to get more information on people, and I always am like, I'm sorry, I'm just a slow writer. Hold on a second.
And so I apologize. I was trying to catch up a little bit too. So remind me again your response as far as if you follow your path, how can you lose it?
Sometimes it's not until you. Well, I said it better before. Sometimes the path that you wish sometimes it's not clear that the path you've chosen is the path you wish to be on until you look back and see where you came from, or if it, find out where it leads. Sometimes you have to just make your best guess with what you have in front of you and hope that it takes you where you want to go.
I like it. Okay.
Cool.
Please ask your question.
See, this is why I was hesitating. I don't know what to ask, you guys. Oh.
If you don't know what to... I mean, you could always ask about Rhiannon's mom. That's all I'm saying.
You could ask about your mentor.
Ooh.
Or
Yeah.
that.
That's kind of what I imagine Narashi would probably ask about.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out like the best way, because that would be part of it. How can I continue to ensure the safety of Zaya while also looking out for those I care about and those I lost, and implying? I think Narashi just knows that, or is assuming that. I don't know. That she's implying her mentor. And I forgot his name because I'm not looking at the name. Kalantosh. Kalantosh, that's what his name is. I've lost someone. I mean, more so he's missing. How do I do both? And which one is which one? How do I do both?
It is hard when one's responsibilities, one's devotions are tested. Especially when you care about people as deeply as you do. Protecting the enemies of the Sky Child will test your resolve. There's no doubt, as it has already. While I do not know the ultimate fate of your missing mentor. Know that the choices he currently makes, the sacrifices he currently makes, the sacrifices and choices he will make, are in devotion to the same cause that you pursue in protecting the Sky Child. And while you cannot necessarily alleviate his pain for the consequences of his actions, know that he, like you, are devoted to serving a higher power. Perhaps take comfort in that.
Thank you for your answers. And she will return.
And you, the last son of morning, do you wish to ask a question?
Gavin walks up, hunkers down on the stairs.
So, I ask of you, what would you say is your path?
Kind of glances over his shoulder at the group and then back at Sayakatra. My path is with them. Before them, I didn't have one. Now I do.
It is good to have family.
It is.
Then what is it you fear?
There's no one thing. I fear failure. I fear losing what I have. I fear Berezaya. Strangely, the one thing I don't fear is losing my own life.
And what is your... What do you feel is your truth?
Out of character. You asked this of just about everybody, and I was trying to prepare for it, and I still don't really have an answer.
So I out of character, I'm the game master. I'm always out of character. Damn it. I admit I had a weird dream, like a month or two ago, where these three questions were like immediately in my brain, like, and I was like, and as soon as I woke up, I immediately like ran downstairs and wrote them down on a piece of paper because I thought, yeah, these are great questions for someone who can see prophecy, what they would ask. Like,
No, it's fabulous.
Yeah, I love it.
Really good.
and I was like, oh, I must write this down immediately. So anyway, so yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Thank you for vamping so I could think longer.
worry.
I don't know my truth. Apparently I'm fate's bitch.
I thought that was Harbinger's.
And you see, she laughs when you say that, and laughs like not maliciously, but this like full belly laughter that immediately, for the rest of you who don't really hear the conversation but see them talking, kind of look up almost slightly in alarm. And you see even Safiria is sitting there in shock because she's never heard her mom laugh like this before. But like the most, like the biggest belly laugh for lack of a better term, that you can get. And after several moments where you see she's actually kind of tearing up out of her good eye as well as her bad one, and it's like, oh, aren't we all?
So, cosmic truth as opposed to my own specific one, I guess.
Yes, the irony being is that the irony being is that the enemy that you face has only brought this upon herself to become fate's bitch, as you say.
Gavin will actually laugh in character, too.
So please, ask your question.
May I ask a... Nope.
That would have been wonderful. I had thought about that originally. I was going to say, I should ask her what question I should ask her, and then I was like, no, that's a bad idea.
I would like to clarify a point before I ask my actual question. Is that... Nope.
And you see, she still has a bit of a smile on her face because you made her laugh. It's like, very well. Ask your clarification.
I can ask anything?
To clarify your mind on what you truly wish to ask, I will allow it this once. Because you humor me, last son of morning.
What is the name and nature of this enemy that we face?
The dragon, known as Dracoskull.
Dracus what?
Spell it, please.
I'll type it in the chat. Hold on a second.
Thank you.
Because it's easier that way. But then I need to move my papers to do that, so let me... The Dragon Dracoskull has been a student of the Draconic prophecy for centuries. And has latched on to a few specific threads due to their uniqueness. Some actually refer to it as the Dakani prophecies. As when they were first discovered, some believed they were not linked to the Draconic ones, being that the symbolism was written in a Dakani origin. But this great worm pursued these prophecies, as they do entail an interesting endeavor of a draconic ruler taking over, building a nation, and ultimately, and with potentially a nation to rival that of the Dakani. However, this particular prophecy was a forked prophecy, in that Drakasgal could definitely complete her ambitions, but should the children of Calamity step foot upon her realm, then her kingdom would fall into ruin. And so, as far as I know, she has been keeping an eye, her and her minions, and her mate, for that matter, have been keeping an eye on all of you to make sure that that doesn't happen. And for the most part, has been quite successful in harrying you from coming to her domain. But then I believe the vast majority of you decided to go on an airship. Headed straight to her. Fate has a wonderful way of kicking people in the proverbial rump, as it were. And so in trying to stop you from entering her domain, unwittingly brought you all together. Well, the majority of you, I should say.
She caused the airship crash.
Indeed. To stop you from going to the one place you were originally meant to go.
That's crazy.
We have to go to Kabara.
Good thing we have my dad with us.
Now, I do wish to. I will offer this one warning as my last bit of aid. Being that you have come here and my daughter has been so interested in you since our first meeting with the agents of Drakasgal, she has been very interested in seeing exactly what happens. Although I'm a bit upset that she has decided to involve herself in this, as I do not wish to take any further part in it. That being said, this Drakasgal and her minions will most likely report in that you have arrived here and perhaps have steered somewhat in the correct direction. And I imagine it may accelerate certain events. That being said, I've given you all the help I wish to give, that I'm allowing myself to give, to make sure that I do not disrupt the arrangement that was made, the non-aggression between Drakasgal and Droan.
I know it defies credulity for me to even ask the following, but I have to ask, and I pray that you will not take offense and only say no if you cannot answer. Who has granted me my power?
Go ahead and make a persuasion roll.
Straight roll?
Just straight roll, yeah.
This is the most important persuasion roll I think Gavin has yet to make.
You get willpower. Not a thing.
That's not a thing. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Can we give him a psychic pep talk?
Rhiannon gives him a psychic slap on the ass.
27.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
It's a good roll.
Can you still pick for my house and animal?
I admit I do like you, last son of morning. But it was not our agreement for me to ask, or for me to answer multiple questions. So I will not tell you who. But because I like you, I will say that the answers you seek lie in the plain of Mabar, where shadows cloak everything as entropy eats away at reality.
That is more than I could possibly have hoped for. Thank you. And he will bow at this point. And he will kind of pause before he heads back. Do we have your leave to depart?
You do. I will make sure Dracoskull's emissaries enjoy our hospitality for a day or two to give you a head start.
Are we going to parade back through there, or are we going to go a different way?
Do you share the information she gave you before we head out?
And you see she kind of makes a gesture, and you see the double doors actually open up, and you see the hall. The big hall is empty, other than the Royal Guard.
So I'll head back to the group real quick. And real quick, just say, hey, the big bad guy is Dracoskull. She's trying to make a whole, like, draconic nation in Kabara, and that's where we need to go to deal with this whole thing. Also, we are super fucked. So
life as usual. Cool.
Yeah, but this is like a great worm dragon, and I'm guessing by the nature of most of her creations green. We are super fucked.
So tell you what, it's 2:30. Let's go and take a break, because I admittedly have to go to the bathroom. Let's take like a 10-minute or so, give or take.
Sure.
Sounds good.
And then we'll come back and go from there.
Alrighty. Jumping to intermission. Bye, everybody. We'll be back in 10. Hi, everybody. We are back.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
So to continue where we left off, so you are escorted back into the kind of the main hall, where you see the slaves that have your equipment are sitting there. They're basically standing there ready to hand it back. You do see that there are royal guard throughout the hall, much like there was before, but none of the other potential visitors are in the hall. It looks like they kind of cleared it out. And you do see also that Captain Colvan is there as well. And you see the Royal Guard kind of basically stops, says, "Here are your things," and then kind of turns around and walks away. And like you get the sense that particular person doesn't really want to have anything else to do with you guys, but
Rhiannon stops limping.
that's fair.
That's funny.
And not that you can see it because he's walking away, but just rolls the eyes yet again because it's a secret that's not a secret, but it is a secret, but it's really not, but it kind of sort of is. But anyway. And you're able to gather your equipment back, whatever you handed over. And the captain basically is like, "I will escort you back to the ship."
Is Soya Safirial still with us?
She is, and you see she's just kind of but she's not like joining you necessarily. She's kind of standing a little bit away, but she's just kind of observing a lot of you with a weird sort of, you'd say almost like a clinical fascination. Like she's still kind of creepy as fuck and not really a nice person, but you know.
Gavin will look over at her and... You may ask one question.
And you see she takes a moment as she...
Yeah, how does it feel to be put on the spot?
It feels like a warm woolen cloak just wrapped around me as I delay while I figure out what the hell she's going to ask.
It should be down there, the black cord. Let me see if I can get it. Maybe. Ah!
Sorry, folks.
Hang on, Brian. Don't ask the question yet. There you go.
That's good.
My ear fell out.
Oh
Alright. My earbud fell out, so I couldn't hear anything while I was grabbing the phone cord for Laura.
A lot better than your whole ear.
Although I've had something similar to that happen.
What?
It's a whole story.
no. A little horrified.
You probably should be.
Your ear falling.
Do you promise to answer truthfully?
I promise to answer as truthfully as I can, provided it does not infringe on any other promises that I have made.
Very well. I'm sure you had several reasons, but what are all the reasons why you did not wish me to board your ship?
That one is probably the simplest answer I can give. We don't trust you.
That's a given. But I asked for all the answers. Surely that's not the only one.
We don't trust you, we don't like you, and there are definitely secrets that we want to keep.
Very well.
Is it likely that you will see the dragon?
Drakus school.
No.
Oh, the
dragon-
green
the green
dick?
dragon and its minions while they're here.
My mother will keep her word and offer them a few days of hospitality in order for you to make your escape. What happens after that, however,
I trust your mother to keep her word. I'm asking about you specifically.
I do as my mother commands, when she commands it of me.
If your mother were to give you permission, would you pass a message? It does not need to be secret from your mother.
And who do you wish me to pass this message to? To the dragon?
To the dragon to pass to their mistress.
Very well. What message would you like to send?
My word that should my mother be returned safely, alive, and in good health to Sharn, that we will not step foot in her realm.
Interesting.
If she continues to keep her, that provides incentive for us to go and retrieve her, and that seems to be the opposite of what she wishes.
Well, that is delightful. I would be happy to pass that message along.
She has 30 days. If my mother's not returned by then, I will assume she is not coming.
Very well.
Thank you.
And with that, she kind of looks over to the rest of you and kind of takes you in a little bit and then kind of nods. And then you see she just kind of, the little kind of disappears.
She's creepy.
Yeah, I don't like her.
I don't like her.
And you see as you kind of say that under your breath, you hear also under their breath, but in a very kind of, again, the very Michael Doran basso profundo that I cannot do because I'm a tenor. You hear me neither. And so Captain Colvin will then escort you back through the city, and you are unaccosted as you travel through, and are brought back up through the kind of that elevator platform back to the surface, where the light is kind of. It takes a few moments to get used to the fact that it's just bright light, because it's pretty dark down there, but and you get back to the ship without any issue. So now the question becomes, what would you like to do next?
Yeah, I think once I think we need to get well on our way before we do much else. But once we are an hour or so out of Droam, I think we're gonna. I will then regale everybody with the full details of what I learned.
Oh, and I will say one thing you do notice is Captain Colvan actually kind of dropped down to one knee and sort of kissed Ember's hand very, 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 very knightly.
Hey, Cap.
Yes?
I'm just saying, we've already got 4. Do you want to? He's pointing to the ship.
As tempting as that would be, my responsibilities lie to my nation.
Understood. Just thought I'd offer.
Thank you for your assistance.
Honestly, anybody that can make Ember purr like a happy goat deserves a spot on this ship. So.
Goat.
You realize that if
Oh no! If Jesse's watching, I am so dead.
And if you could see a Minotaur blush, like you're guessing he's doing the equivalent of that.
Fair enough.
And he proceeds to head over and you see he actually gets on a wyvern mount and is basically when you guys take off, he does start to he escorts you for a little bit, but then he will eventually peel away. That being said, before as you guys are boarding onto the longboat, Barca actually kind of tugs a little bit on Rhiannon's sleeve and is like,
Hey, buddy.
I need to, Riri, I need to talk.
What's going on?
Been talking to the scary one-eyed lady. So I'm sorry I didn't ask questions about your mom, but she answered some questions about something else. And it sounded like if I don't kind of take a look at it now, I might lose my chance to find out more information about my mother. I don't want to I want to help because Riri and Nene and the rest of you are all family, but I need to also know. And you see he's kind of like, you see his eyes kind of twitch a little bit as he's trying to find the words, because, you know, it is Barca.
Hey, buddy. It's okay to go.
Okay. Okay. I was maybe gonna talk to Tina about maybe joining me. But
You do what you need to do. You don't need permission from any of us.
We'll be
Okay.
on the answers you're looking for.
Here to help if you need us. Do we have another? I know Ember made all those stones. Do we have any sending things that we can?
As far as Ember's expanded sending stone thing, it is going to be not until the end of this month before the order will be complete.
Okay. Barca, if you take some of that money that you earned and you go to House Civis, you can order something called a sending, and they can contact us.
Okay.
House Civis, sending. Those are the two things that you need to remember. That's how to get us. And wherever you are, whatever we're doing, unless we're literally trained up in a dungeon, we will come find you.
House sending Civis. Got it.
Or, you know, I'm
Close
sure
enough.
we're going to be keeping a low profile, so if you ask around for a strange airship, I'm sure you'll find us.
Probably true.
True. Zaya. Yeah.
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 So you see, like, you guys get on board the airship, and then he has a talk with Argentia, and you see Argentia kind of nods and kind of looks over at the rest of you, and then he proceeds to get mounted up, kind of gathers things, get mounted up. You see a couple of the goblins kind of ask on, and you see Barca actually is like, no, you stay here with them, you stay here with the captains, and kind of listen to what they say, do what they say, don't make me throw you off the airship. And they all nod. And so he gives a hug to everybody.
Say goodbye to Argentia.
Argentia says goodbye to everybody.
Rhiannon will say goodbye to Tina and then goes over to Barca and tears a little piece of fabric off her dress, like just off the hem, and ties it in one of Barca's braids. We'll see you soon.
Yep, and he gives you like the biggest bear hug.
Okay. Oh god, those are my ribs. Okay.
I think those are referred to as bugbear hugs. Thank you.
Yeah, bugbear hug. Part bug, part bear, all hug.
Yes.
Okay, that needs to go on a t-shirt.
And so he and Argentia actually fly off, and you see they actually enter back into the Great Crag. And you guys depart. Again, Captain Colvin kind of escorts you for at least a couple of miles before kind of doing a final salute and then kind of flying off.
Before he goes, is he within 120 feet of the ship?
Sure.
Okay, so I'll go over to the side he's on and I will shoot him a message.
Okay.
With the message spell. You do realize that if any of those ironclad airships come after us, we're going to have to put it down again, yeah?
And you hear let's see, because it's message spell, so it's still like 25 words, right?
Yep.
Your ship is recognized. As long as not a threat, you should be okay to enter Droam. Don't do anything to make us come after you.
Cast it again, because it's a cantrip. Thank you. You're good people. Or, you know what I mean.
And he doesn't really give a verbal response, but then does kind of the salute, and then you see the kind of peels off. So with that, obviously you're leaving Droam, but where do you guys want to head to?
Sharn for now?
Yeah,
Sharn or Roat?
Sharn or Roat? At Maya's discretion.
Ooh. We have spent a lot of time with Sharn. Let's head to Roat for a while.
See what shenanigans we can get up to in Roat.
I mean, what's the worst can happen? I shouldn't say that because then I have to make it up. All right. Anyway, all right.
Once the ship is on its way, Brandon is gonna find her dad.
Okay.
So, if you were a big, evil, great worm dragon wanting to create their own kingdom that happened to be in Kabara, and I look at him real pointedly, where would you do that? Wayfinder.
Oh fuck, that's a thing.
Hypothetically speaking.
Well, admittedly, so there's like a lot of lizard folk tribes that run around in Kabara, and some dragonborn tribes too. And while, I mean, the jungles are hostile, you know, some tribes you can negotiate with or work with. I mean, some of them do go to New Throne and trade for things. Although, as I recall, things have been getting kind of progressively worse hostility-wise with them. I guess if someone's pulling the strings, that would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, okay. Let me grab a map here.
Sorry, not sorry.
So, admittedly, there's a lot of, I guess you could say there's a lot of, there's really only two big towns, so to speak, that would even be, so to speak, you'd say safe for people that are not scaly.
Yeah. New Throne.
There's New Throne, which is more or less kind of the, sort of loosely the capital. And to some extent Adderport.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else is all like ruins and jungle. Well, except for the northern part that's swamp.
Is there any house emissary or whatever that like
any enclaves?
Enclave.
You mean the Dragon Mark?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's a few that have some representatives there. You know, Orion and Lyrandar, because you know they do a lot of shipping and travel.
Okay. Mainly.
A lot of Thrask too, because they go into the jungles searching for dragon shards.
Mm-hmm.
And admittedly, a lot of people who don't necessarily want to go all the way down south to deal with the troubles in Stormreach will, if they're looking to hide out, Kabara is a great place to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, admittedly, there's also plenty of bounty hunters and those that are hunting the people that are trying to hide in the jungles of Kabara. I admit I've done a little bit of that from time to time, or helped a few people guide as needed. Not that I'd ever want to make that a full-time gig, but...
Fair enough.
I mean, there are some areas that I guess I usually try to circumvent or avoid, larger ruin areas that are, I guess, known to have a dragon or something large menace living there. I mean, I want to say there's a black dragon by the name of, I want to say it was like Rashik or something like that, a creepy black dragon that lives in a set of ruins.
Any dragon you have named Drakusgal?
The name doesn't sound familiar, but now that you mention it, I maybe have heard that name once or twice.
Where do you think you've heard the name?
Well, again, with some of the lizard folk traders that come into New Throne. I guess the name doesn't sound super familiar. They were from much deeper in the jungles, so if this Drakusgal is located there, they're definitely deep in the heart of Kavara. Does this have to do with Lyria?
Yes.
Do we know any more information? Well, I guess when we get back to, we're going back to, where are we going?
We're going to Roat.
Okay. I don't really have much for contacts in Roat, but if you want, I can try working my way back, seeing what information I can.
Working your way back to...
Well, to Kabara, I would assume.
That could be potentially extremely dangerous, particularly if you're talking about Mom. 2 people.
Do we know if she's still alive?
She was up until recently.
And if I, out of character, if I, so to speak, if I mentioned it, Soya Contra did not mention her in the past tense.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did it by accident and did not mean to.
No. Rhiannon's comment is more along the line based on she was alive when she was bartered to Drakusgal. We have no way of knowing at this point.
Okay.
But Rhiannon is intentionally being vague and keeping information from Karth.
Although you are a smart and savvy person, you would assume that this Drakusgal would probably intend to keep her alive until to ultimately as a better bargaining chip to leverage on you.
Mm-hmm.
You would imagine.
Yeah.
If your mom were dead, then truthfully, Drakusgal wouldn't necessarily have that leverage.
True.
For what that's worth.
But we would have to know that she were dead in order for it to not be leverage.
All right. Well, what would you like me to do?
I don't know, Dad. What does anybody else think?
Oh, were we privy to this conversation? I thought it was a private conversation.
Yeah, I guess I was assuming it was just the 2 of you, unless you said otherwise.
Oh, no, I assumed we were just talking on the deck of the ship.
Oh, okay. So then you're all together.
Okay. Sorry, I might have weighed in
Sorry,
earlier if I'd known.
I should have specified that.
It's okay.
I didn't think of it.
Yep. My apologies. I was where he was at, but it's all good.
See, what I'm fascinated by is the fact that your dad was in Kabara and the dragon didn't go after him. So it's entirely probable up until the 2 of you made contact, the dragon had absolutely no idea that you were related.
If indeed they even know, because it's not like we've paraded Karth around.
It's true, but there are magics that can help spy on specific situations, which I think is potentially going to be problematic going forward.
Mm.
And we may need to take some steps. And I don't know that, like, we've got a fair amount of money, but I don't know that we can afford to purchase anything. We may have to liberate. some magic items. I will say, as kind of the end of my point, though, it would be helpful to have somebody with the ear to the ground in Kabara, so that if we do have to invade the lair of a great worm dragon, we will be at least somewhat informed of the lay of the land.
You see Ember's like, well, and the flaming rabbits are there too. They're
true.
setting up a safe house for
Tarkanian.
things. Yeah.
Amaya or Narashti, got anything to add?
Well, this sort of thing isn't exactly my area of expertise, so I will defer to your wisdom.
I just have the sense that there's more going on than we know. And I'm just wary of what will be waiting for us once we continue down this path.
You're right, and it occurs to me that we are flying off half-cocked, and we have been doing so since we left Stormreach. Fuck, we've been doing so since we left the jungles of Zendrick.
You see Karth is like, well, if you need more information, maybe if Firehair over there is says she's got some contacts in New Throne. I mean, we can set up shop there and get information off the ground, but maybe you guys need to find out more information about this dragon.
My wondering is what... I don't know. I again, as like we were just called, we are pawns, and I want to know what the bigger game is. I think we need to know what the bigger players are wanting in this.
I have a thought. It's not a plan so much as it is an idea.
Okay.
Some of the biggest libraries on Corvair are located in Sharn. Morgrave University has reached out more than once and asked one or more of us to come speak on any kind of gestures to Zaya. What if we took them up on it, spun the usual bullshit, haunted ship, etc., and then leveraged that to free access to their library? And then we could research what the fuck we're getting into. It's a prophecy. It's written down somewhere. I speak and read Draconic. He gestures to Amaya. I know you speak and read Draconic. Like, maybe we could find some information out then, so we're not flying completely blind as usual.
I may not know Draconic, but I do know my way a lot around a library. To some extent.
I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I literally wrote the book on the haunted ghost ship, so I'm happy to do the speaking.
Very well.
Okay. Let's...
Maybe... And while we do that, Ember can check in, just, not physically, but we can try to get in touch with the Flaming Rabbits and see if they also can
Agreed.
give us the lay of the land before we get there.
Yes.
And maybe keep your ears open.
Good idea.
How much are a pair of sending stones?
That is a great question. Let me see what I can find here for you on that. Oh, come on. Oh, I know you're in here. Haha. Sorry, I should have a...
How dare you not have literally everything I need at your fingertips?
Especially when this is a very free-form game and you had absolutely no idea or couldn't have possibly planned for it.
Right.
For sure.
I know, I should do better.
How dare you?
Where the hell? I had it in here. Oh, Same Magic Prices. There we go. So for a basic set of sending stones, I believe. Well, and especially if you're in like Roat or Sharn, where it's a pretty solid center of finding stuff without too much issue. No, it's not. Or ram it. All right. Because Sending Stones is in the actual DMG as well as in Eberron book, right?
I believe so.
I thought they were too. Oh, so I'd say for just the pair of Sending Stones, the effectively the single walkie-talkies to each other, you'd be looking at like maybe like 2,200.
When we get wherever we're going, which I assume now is Shard, not Roat, Rhiannon will buy a pair and give one to Karth before sending him off to Gabara.
All right.
Rhiannon is getting a lot of money.
And Ember uses her sendings to give them a message to keep an eye out for things, let them know Karth is coming.
Wonderful.
So that, you know, they can prepare. They do mention they are safe. They are in New Throne. She mentioned that there have been some of the expeditions have been kind of have been canceled, so to speak. So there's a lot of adventures just because there does seem to be a little bit of hubbub generally in the jungles, a lot of hostility towards people, but that's granted, it's a sending, you know, even with her casting as many sendings as she can, there's only so much information going through, but your dad's like, you know, puts a hand on Ember's shoulder and says, "Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on him." And then he gives you a hug, Rhiannon.
Hug him back. Don't do anything stupid.
Nope. You're taking all the stupid with you. And he looks over at Gavin, gives a wink, and then just kind of claps him on the shoulder.
Gavin just grins.
Okay.
So do you guys want to go then to the not Corenberg?
More brave.
Thank you. I knew there was a name. I will say it'll probably be like another day of travel to get back to Sharn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I admit I also wanted to go back to Sharn because that's where Ember's sending stones are being crafted.
True, although just to let you know, there's still like a good solid 2, almost 3 weeks left on those.
Yeah, and I've got something that'll be a few weeks.
Now that being said, too, this could be a potential moment where if you wanted to, I mean, I know you feel like you're on a bit of a time crunch, but this actually could be a moment where we actually introduce a little bit of downtime.
I mean, our time crunch was set by Rhiannon, 30 days.
Considering that, well, yeah, for one, you're giving them 30 days to respond, but also just in general, there's a couple of things that you guys want to craft or do or whatever. So this is potentially a good place to do that if you want. I'll leave that kind of up to you.
Haha, we're here, so we make the decision. Yes, let's do it! Does anybody object?
No, I think that makes sense.
I'm in.
Can Rhiannon earn money doing work for her house?
Yeah, so tell you what. So here's, so first off, do you guys think that you are going to take the full 30 days then?
Unless there's some response earlier than that.
Yeah.
Probably take at least close to the 30 days. And then just the last couple prepping in case we still don't hear anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very, very clear on this, and I don't know if this counts as downtime action or not, but Gavin is going to be taking a lecture at Moorgrave University. He is going to be delivering said lecture, and he's going to be leveraging that into free access to their library so they can research the dragon, which he would like to do during that course of 30 days.
That is fair. Okay. So here's what we are going to do. I'm going to grab some books. We're going to look at a few things. And admittedly, the rest of this adventure today maybe more just kind of going over some basic things that we're doing in the downtime, and we may call it at that. Since, if nothing else, it kind of gives me some ideas to run with for next time. But we can definitely cover some of what happens downtime-wise. I'm assuming also during downtime you guys are still doing the training of the minions and in the various things and what have you.
Yep.
And you guys also getting trained in airship sailing with Amaya and what have you.
Still teaching Liddy how to speak giant or speak common.
And teaching Liddy how to speak common. So let's do this. Okay.
Bow, bow.
Oh yeah. So tell you what, I will start with let's start with Amaya. Amaya, what would you like to do during your downtime specifically?
Oh. That is a good question. I mean, I imagine that a lot of it is teaching everybody else how to pilot an airship.
And that will take some of your time, but that's not going to necessarily take all of your time. Like you'll have, and this is also assuming like you guys are, you know, resting and eating and whatever. So, I mean, it's not like by any means you're stuck only being able to do one thing for downtime. Like with some within reason, there you may be able to kind of explore a couple of different things depending on what you would like to do.
Well, I'm gonna go do like, well, some things that I'm planning to do if you want to join.
Yeah.
Is one, be focused in more on like some more like Clash Star ritual and stuff. I know that Rhiannon had expressed interest, so Narashi would, you know, invite Rhiannon to do that, Zaya and Maya. So like I'm thinking like mornings we can feel like it's like a sunrise thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Here for it.
Yeah, and so kind of doing more of that and like teaching that. And then as well as Narashi's gonna wanna like get some time, like since we have significant downtime, like wanting to go like if there's like music and like theater venues or like museums, like since we're here for a really extended time, she's gonna want to explore some of that.
Okay.
And then I'm just talking about me. Narashi will also take some time to help Gavin in the library too, researching.
Good, because that is really not my forte.
Yeah, I have a +5 in investigation at least, so.
Nice.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, it's not Amaya's forte, but as one of the people who can read Draconic and researching a dragon might be helpful. So Amaya will spend at least some time in the library. Sometime training everybody on piloting, and sometime doing the Kalashtar stuff. She'll probably take in
Secret class.
yeah, secret.
Now you do know there is a there is a brain farting. Stop that. All right. There is actually a district, like a neighborhood in Sharn, that is effectively like Little Riedra, like
Oh, fun.
that you know is populated primarily by kind of Kalashtar and whatnot.
Okay.
Is there like a temple, like a Kalashtar temple thing there?
There is a temple to Ilyana there.
And actually, Amaya is probably spending a good deal of time showing Zaya around things and kind of showing her a lot of the culture. And
I feel like we would do a few family outings in there.
Sure.
Like, Gavin wasn't necessarily from Sharn, but he spent a lot of time in Sharn, so he'd probably show some of his favorite, like, what would be considered tourist destinations.
So Narashti, Amaya, one thing you do notice as you kind of explore, and granted, being that Narashti was delved into more of this aspect a little bit more than Amaya, who is more on the more just trained on a lot of the more martial aspects, at least from what I've read from some of your backstory.
yeah,
Narashti will take the lead a little bit on this, and not to say that Amaya doesn't fill in with what you know and whatnot, but you definitely kind of get the sense that between the two of you, Narashti has had a very more broader sort of training in a lot of those aspects. But that being said, you both notice that Rhiannon is kind of picking up on the sort of the philosophy of Ilyana. And while, you know, not necessarily understanding the history of the religion or whatnot, like you guys maybe have a little bit more, but like definitely is not just grasping the concepts, but you realize that over this time, as you guys spend all this time together, that you realize she's tapping into this to an extent. Like you don't necessarily know if it's more of almost like on an instinctual level a little bit. Like, again, not necessarily, I mean, I don't think any of you have the religion skill, right?
nope.
No.
So yeah, so definitely not like a more of a rote, like traditional, but you definitely get the sense though that there is some sort of bond there, that Rhiannon is definitely linked to Ilyana, at least as far as the kind of the concepts behind it. Granted, none of you have religion, so none of you really know exactly how. But it's, for what it's worth, it's there.
Okay.
Oh, what was that?
Shit.
So let's see. So who's so this will actually be about approximately 2 months of training. So who has an intelligence score, intelligence modifier of +2 or higher?
Hey, what modifier of what now?
So who of the group has an intelligence score of +2 or higher?
Marina does.
I think I will, because I think I
Me.
my thing.
So those that do, and technically Narashti would take more time, but fuck it, I'm rolling it in because why not? It's easier math. For those that do, enough time has been allotted that you now have proficiency with airships or air vehicles.
Woo!
Amaya, you now have expertise with air
Yes.
vehicles, which means you get to double your proficiency modifier with that particular, whenever you're dealing with piloting an airship.
I am not sure how to add that on D&D Beyond.
Right.
These custom skills.
Is there custom skills?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll check later on with Ember to see if she has probably a pretty decent intelligence, so she'll probably get it too, but we'll worry about that when she joins us again. I know she's not feeling so hot right now.
What modifier is that for? What do we use?
Whatever the moment calls for, usually.
Whatever the moment calls for.
There's also custom proficiencies.
Realistically, if you're doing like sort of regular tasks, you're probably looking at intelligence. If you're looking for like actively piloting the airship or the longboats, then it's probably Dex. It's more situational.
What are we calling this proficiency?
Vehicles, airships.
Yeah, or vehicle air vehicles or vehicle air.
Do we have? Oh, there's not a vehicle.
Or it's in the.
You could just do a custom one.
They might have a slightly different wording in the
That's fine.
player's guide, but it's.
I'm gonna call it airship.
I always look at like sailor as the background, and then kind of instead of saying water vehicles, say. So it'd be vehicles air, vehicles, and then in parentheses air.
And we get a what is it for each? Why does it?
Now,
I will point something out that is deeply, deeply important in the course of all of this. More important than literally anything else that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
In the midst of this downtime is Gavin's birthday.
oh, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Shouldn't it have?
Well, I'll tell you what. For right now, we'll worry a little bit more about the bookkeeping. So yeah, I know it's not as exciting necessarily for people who are watching, but we'll dip into some of these downtime events as more of a role-playing thing. I think maybe next time it'll give me an idea as far as some things to explore, as far as things that sort of happen during this downtime.
And kinky birthday sex for Gavin.
Woo, kinky birthday sex. Somehow our
I will say that so technically the goblins. Oh, I forget what the goblins were. Actually, let me take a look. I think the goblins may have actually learned whatever skills they were learning too. Because no, they did not. Never mind. They still have time that they need to do. And Barca and Barca is going to have to temporarily wait. But Liddy is still sadly learning giant or learning common. And Nikali finishes what he refers to as the first of his cloaks. And so you see Nikali has crafted a fine cloak that looks like it's made out of feathers. In fact, you see some of the rock feathers, or I should say, sort of some of the fins of the rock feathers were kind of tailored into this. And Nikali, at the end of this, will actually ask, mentions that he has plans for other cloaks as well. The idea is eventually he'll try to make one for everybody, but that being said, this Who do you... Things I don't know who I would necessarily want to give this to. I didn't have a specific person picked out. He offers it to, I guess, ultimately hands it off to the group. But effectively, you guys can kind of figure out who would like to take it. It is similar to Wings of Flying, in so much that you can fly for up to an hour.
Ooh.
So it's like a feathered cloak that basically turns into wings that allows you to fly for up to an hour. And you just it takes an action to speak the command word and then
To
pop
bamf
it
them
open.
out.
And then it can fly for up to an hour or until you repeat the command word as an action. It gives you a fly speed of 60 feet. When the wings go away, you got to wait like a die 12 hours before they can pop out again. In addition to that, though, because these are Nikali's Wings of Flying, the whoever's donning the mantle or the wings, so to speak, is under the permanent effects of a feather fall.
So even if you're flying while you while the wings go away, you don't die.
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys live on an airship, so having access to feather fall is kind of a handy thing to have. So
Yeah.
now it only affects you. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not like casting the spell, but it is considered a rare item and does require attunement.
I say we should have this discussion off stream so that Ember can weigh in.
And that's fair, but so for right now, if you want to throw even in the group loot Nikali's Cloak of Flying, or
I'm on it.
As far as for Narashti, since you said you did want to explore things and whatnot, I would like you to actually make a charisma persuasion roll.
Oh boy, this is not the best for me, but we'll give it a go. Oh, just a straight.
And I would say if you since you did mention that you guys were also kind of exploring this with Amaya and Rhiannon at times, I will allow you to roll with advantage.
Thanks, because I rolled a 4. Should have rolled a regular dice and not. Jesus! Are you kidding me? I need to not roll on D&D Beyond ever again.
So may I ask, what were your 2 rolls?
Oh, well, the first one was a 4, and then I rolled a 3. So
a total of 3 or 4, respectively?
yeah.
Okay.
Shush. I'm never using D&D Beyond again to roll. I haven't rolled higher than a 10.
And tell you what, Amaya and Rhiannon, I will also allow you to roll.
Also with advantage?
Yes.
This is persuasion?
Charisma persuasion.
19 total for me.
Okay.
One of those was an 18, and the other one was a nat 20, so 22.
Nice.
Okay.
Alright, apparently I'm stealing all the luck here.
It's okay. I just added a miscellaneous one.
I will dive into more about what the roles mean and matter later on, but But like this is kind of you spending your downtime to do that. I don't know if there's anything else I want to do. Rhiannon, one last thing I would also like you to do, and I will let you choose. You can either roll an intelligence religion check or a charisma persuasion check with disadvantage.
So a straight religion or a persuasion with disadvantage.
Correct.
Oh. I'm gonna go with the persuasion roll. Save such a better modifier. Which doesn't. Oh, I rolled a nat 20 for the one. Total of 13.
13's not bad.
For a disadvantage roll? No, that's pretty good.
What about a 27?
And I love it that I'm not saying anything about what this means for you because I'm evil.
Yeah, so in addition to doing things with Narashti and Amaya, she'd try to pick up work from her house. She would try to help with the researching, and then also be working on the sash for Barca.
Okay. So I'm gonna say just with admittedly that's gonna start spreading you a bit thin.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say for those last three, the sash, working for the house, or helping with the research,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have to pick one of those that you are unable to perform just because due to time constraints.
She will leave off helping with the research then.
Okay. Okay, so then what I would like you to do is go ahead and roll your your investigation.
That is a total of 29.
Okay.
That is a near impossible roll.
So just to let you know, effectively during this downtime, you're able to earn a comfortable lifestyle plus 25 gold pieces a week.
So how much is that a week?
So that'd be 100 gold, and then we'll roll the comfortable lifestyle into updating some of the furniture pieces and whatnot in Zaya, those that aren't directly built out of Zaya, like sheets and pillows and things of that nature, and maybe some nice food for the crew so that they're not like horribly eating rations. But that would still mean just an extra 100 gold.
Well,
Still isn't enough. Brandon's gonna have to borrow money from Gavin.
Gavin does not have a shitload of money.
Does Gavin have like 50 gold?
Yes, I have that. Oh, no, I actually do have a fair amount of money. Yeah.
I don't know that I had a whole lot else on that then. For Amaya and Narashti, other than kind of introducing yourselves to the kind of the Clash Tower neighborhood and dealing and being with Rhiannon, and then of course your training airship style. What was there anything else you wanted to pursue? Or Narashti mentioned researching. We'll get to that in a second.
Probably nothing too specific. Like Amaya might see if there's a dojo somewhere nearby that you can do some sparring and hand-to-hand practice with.
And okay, easy enough to do with, especially with the Kalashtar. There's probably a couple dojos catering to different styles in that neighborhood that you can practice with, and we'll deal with that in later. I know. I realize I'm kind of loading this up, and we're kind of speed running through some stuff, and we're going to deal with more of it probably in the next session. Gavin, in
Yes.
addition to doing any research, are you and still helping Liddy learn Common? Are you doing anything else, or is there any other things that you wish to pursue?
You might be underestimating the intense amount of research he plans to put into this. Here's the thing. He's going to be researching multiple things, so that might change it a little bit. So he's going to be researching the dragon, he's going to be researching the prophecy that was mentioned, and he's going to be researching Mabar.
Okay.
So I'm guessing between those three fairly broad topics, that's going to take most of his time.
That's fair. That's fair. All right. Okay. So I think with that gives me a handle on where to kind of deal with some stuff, and we'll kind of role play through some of this more, I think, next session. But I think this is probably a good stopping point. We'll cut it a little early today.
Cool.
And we'll see. We'll see what happens next. So, want to thank everybody for joining us. I apologize. I know the last part was a little bland as we develop what we're going to do next year.
Not
but,
bland, logistics heavy.
Logistics heavy.
There we go.
A pseudo shopping episode, kind of, but not, but sort of. But we want to thank you all for joining us. We'll be back in. Oh, that's right. Just want to double check something on my schedule because. Let's see. So the next. No, don't pick that day. Come on, thing. I forget. When's Easter again?
Next
Easter
weekend.
is next weekend.
Oh, perfect. Never mind then. So we are on then on the 11th.
On the 11th.
Should be, yeah.
And should be at noon, and I think we should be good to go then. I don't have anything that I.
There's a small chance we might be out of town. We haven't figured out our schedule yet. And next week, that's the last weekend of spring break, and we're still trying to figure out when we're gonna go up and visit Jess's mom.
Okay.
Some health news from family members. So.
All right.
If I'm not here, y'all play without me, and just let me know what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll be okay to still plan for the 11th then at noon and noon Central Time for the next thrilling tale. I hope you enjoyed today. I know I had fun.
I had a good time.
Yeah, that was enjoyable.
All right, friends. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.